They thought I'd crumble. They thought a grieving widow would just hand over everything my husband and I built together. His own brothers, circling like vultures before the funeral flowers even wilted, demanding I sign papers that would strip away 20 years of my life. But they underestimated one thing. They forgot I wasn't just David's wife. I was his business partner. If you find stories like this as gripping as I do, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments if you've ever faced family drama after loss. Your support keeps these real stories coming. The morning after David's memorial service, I found them in our kitchen. Not guests. Not mourners. Predators. His older brother Marcus sat at my breakfast table like he owned it, spreading documents across the surface where my husband and I used to share our morning coffee. Tom, the younger one, leaned against my counter, arms crossed, that familiar smirk I'd learned to hate over the years. "Sarah, we need to talk business," Marcus said without looking up. "No, how are you holding up, or we're here for you. Just business. David's gone, and frankly, you can't run Davidson Industries alone. You've got no experience." I stood there in my black dress from yesterday, mascara probably smudged under my eyes, and felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not grief this time. Recognition. This wasn't about helping me. This was about taking what they'd always believed should have been theirs. "I've been working alongside David for 15 years, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I know every client, every contract, every supplier." Tom laughed. Actually laughed. "Come on, Sarah. You answered phones and did bookkeeping. That's not the same as running a construction company."
Wrong.
So incredibly wrong. But I let them talk. Sometimes the best strategy is letting people show you exactly who they are. Marcus slid a paper across the table. "We've already spoken to the lawyer. Since David didn't have a proper succession plan." He paused, and I caught the lie immediately. David had a succession plan. I helped him write it 2 years ago, when his first heart episode scared us both. The family business should stay in the family. Real family. Real family. As if 23 years of marriage, as if raising their nephews when they couldn't be bothered, as if building this company from 3 employees to 47 somehow didn't count. I picked up the document. Partnership dissolution. Asset transfer. Legal jargon that basically translated to sign here and walk away with nothing but the life insurance money. They'd even been generous enough to offer me 6 months to find somewhere smaller, more appropriate for a single woman. This house. The house where David proposed in the living room. Where we brought our premature son home from the hospital. Where we celebrated every contract, every milestone, every ordinary Tuesday that made up our life together. They wanted to take that too. "I need time to think," I said. "There's nothing to think about," Tom replied. "You can't handle it, Sarah. Be realistic." That night, I sat in David's office, our office, surrounded by 20 years of blueprints, contracts, and dreams made concrete. I opened his desk drawer and found the folder marked Succession Plan, Confidential. My name was on every page. Not as his wife. As his business partner and chosen successor. But here's what they didn't know about me. What they couldn't have known because they never bothered to look past the woman who brought coffee to their meetings and smiled politely at their condescending jokes. I wasn't just David's wife. I wasn't just the bookkeeper. I was the one who negotiated our biggest contract while David was in the hospital with pneumonia. I was the one who developed our safety protocols that cut workplace incidents by 60%. I was the one who found us 3 new revenue streams when the housing market crashed in 2008. I was the one who kept us alive when his brother's own ventures failed spectacularly. The next morning, I walked into our office building wearing my best business suit and carrying a box of documents they didn't know existed. Marcus was already there, feet up on what he apparently considered his new desk, talking to someone on the phone about restructuring the dead weight. "Sarah," he said, hanging up. "Hope you've made the smart choice." "I have," I said, setting the box down with a satisfying thud. "I'm keeping my company." "Your company?" Tom had arrived, coffee in hand, that same arrogant smile spreading across his face. "Did you hit your head at the funeral?" I opened the box and pulled out the succession plan. David's signature. 2 witnesses. Notarized. Legal. Binding. David named me as his successor and primary beneficiary of all business assets. This was filed with our attorney 18 months ago. The color drained from Marcus's face. That can't be legitimate. Oh, it is. But here's the interesting part. I pulled out another folder. While you two were planning my exit, I was reviewing our partnership agreements. Did you know that neither of you actually owns any part of Davidson Industries? You're employees. Well-paid employees, but employees nonetheless. This was the moment. The moment when 20 years of being underestimated paid off. Because while they saw a grieving widow, I saw an opportunity to finally run the company the way it should be run. You can't fire us, Tom sputtered. We're family. You're right. I can't fire you. But I can restructure your positions to match your actual contributions. Marcus, you're great with client relations, but terrible with project management. Tom, you've got good instincts for new business, but you've never finished a project on time or under budget. I had spent 3 sleepless nights preparing for this moment. 3 nights reviewing every project, every contract, every decision that had been made in the past 5 years. They thought grief would make me weak. Instead, it made me focused. I'm implementing new management structures. Marcus, you'll head client services. Tom, you'll lead business development. Both positions come with clear performance metrics and accountability measures. Marcus stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. And what makes you think you can run this place? I smiled. For the first time since David died, I actually smiled. Because I already have been. Who do you think covered for David during his 3 hospital stays? Who handled the Peterson contract when you told them we couldn't meet their timeline? Who found the suppliers when our usual vendors raised prices by 30%? The silence stretched between us like a chasm opening up. But this isn't just about business. I continued. You want the house too. David's childhood home. Where we've lived for 18 years. Where your nephews come for Christmas morning and summer barbecues. That's when Marcus played his final card. Mom's on our side, Sarah. She agrees the family assets should stay with blood family. Their mother. David's mother. The woman who taught me to make his favorite lasagna and who held my hand through 2 miscarriages. The woman I'd called Mom for over 2 decades. My heart clenched. Losing David was devastating. Losing his family, too, that felt like dying twice. The custody case they threatened never materialized. They realized quickly that taking on a grieving widow in court, especially one with 18 months of documented succession planning, wasn't the slam dunk they'd imagined. But the house, that became a battle. 3 months later, I sat in a courthouse conference room across from Marcus, Tom, and their lawyer. My attorney laid out the property deeds, mortgage payments, and home improvement records. Every renovation, every repair, every dollar invested in that house over 18 years. Mrs. Davidson has clear legal ownership, my lawyer explained. The property was transferred to joint ownership upon marriage, and she's been the primary contributor to mortgage payments and maintenance. Their lawyer shuffled papers uncomfortably. My clients maintain that family property should remain with blood relatives. That's when the conference room door opened, and David's mother walked in. Eleanor Davidson, 78 years old, silver hair perfectly styled, carrying herself with the dignity that comes from raising 4 boys and burying a husband too young. The woman I thought I'd lost along with my husband. She sat down next to me. Not across from me. Next to me. I have something to say, she announced, her voice carrying the authority that had kept her sons in line for decades. Marcus leaned forward. Mom, we discussed this. No, Marcus. You talked. I listened. Now I'm talking. She turned to face her sons directly. David chose Sarah. Not just as his wife. As his partner. As the person he trusted with everything you boys seem to think belongs to you, by birthright. The room went dead silent. That house stopped being the family home the day David brought Sarah home as his bride. It became their home. She painted every room, planted every flower, hosted every holiday. She made that house a home for my son in ways that mattered more than whose name was on the original deed. Eleanor reached into her purse and pulled out an envelope. I'm donating my portion of any claim to Sarah. Consider it my wedding gift, 23 years late. Tom's mouth fell open. Mom, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. And boys. She stood up, smoothing down her skirt. You've got two choices. You can accept that Sarah is family and start treating her with the respect she's earned, or you can explain to your nephews why Grandma won't be seeing them anymore because their uncles decided money was more important than family. She looked at me then, and I saw David's eyes. Kind but fierce. Protective but fair. Sarah, I should have said this 3 months ago. You're not losing a family. You're keeping the family that matters. The legal papers were signed that afternoon. The house remained mine. The business continued to thrive under my leadership. But the real victory wasn't in the courthouse or the boardroom. 6 months later, Marcus knocked on my door on a Sunday afternoon. Not the front door this time. The kitchen door, where family comes calling. Sarah, he said, hat literally in his hands. I need to apologize. Not just for the legal stuff. For everything. For 20 years of treating you like you didn't belong. Tom stood behind him, looking like a scolded child. We were wrong. About you, about the business, about what David wanted. We'd like to make it right, Marcus continued. If you let us. I looked at these two men who had made my life difficult for 2 decades, who had tried to steal my future when I was at my lowest point, and I felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness, exactly, but understanding. They weren't evil. They were scared. Scared of change, scared of losing control, scared of admitting that the little woman they dismissed was more capable than they'd ever been. The business is doing well, I said finally. Better than it ever has. We landed 3 major contracts last quarter, but I could use help with the expansion into commercial projects. Marcus's eyes widened. You mean? I mean, if you're willing to work for me instead of around me, we might have something to talk about. Today, Davidson Industries employs 68 people. We've expanded into 3 states and won 2 industry awards for innovation. The house is full of grandchildren's laughter every weekend, and Eleanor still makes her famous lasagna for Sunday dinner. Sometimes losing everything shows you what was worth keeping all along. But here's what I learned that nobody tells you about becoming a widow. You don't just lose your husband. You lose the version of yourself that existed in partnership with him. The scary part isn't learning to be alone. It's learning who you are when you're not half of something else. Turns out, I was stronger than any of us knew. What's your story of finding strength you didn't know you had? Share it in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more real stories of resilience.